My name is Paul Grimley. I work for Microsoft Consulting Services in the UK. I'm here today to talk to you about Delve and delving into Delve. It looks like from the keynote, Jeremy did a good job of attracting you guys to this session as well. So thank you for the turnout. It's very good, so thank you. Okay, as I said, my name is Paul Grimley. I'm a senior consultant in Microsoft Consulting Services. Just to kind of give you a bit of a difference in my approach to this to kind of like Jeremy Thake. So Jeremy works for the product team. I work in the services division, so I work with customers, going out to engage with customers on solutions they need for predominantly for SharePoint, Office 365, the productivity stack and cloud stack. So some credentials here from me. You probably can't see that very well actually, but obviously these slides will be shared. But Twitter's probably the best way to get hold of me. If you want to ask me any questions, engage with me after the session, I'll respond to those for you. So please do, I encourage those questions to me. And if I can't answer them in the room, come and see me afterwards, and I'll take your details and I'll find out as much as I can for you. Okay, so as I said, I work with customers. I look at implementing solutions for them, looking at roadmaps, trying to match requirements to technology. So there's kind of a varied role. So just one thing, I don't just do Delve. Delve is one of many things that I do, but I've got a lot of insights for you in this Delve area to talk about today. So in terms of these events, this is my third time speaking at these events. There's a theme. I come in with this is how I approached it from when I talk to my customers rather than a very marketing and sales focus. I'm trying to put my spin on it, which is more around what my clients think, or how this might fit for you guys. Okay. The agenda. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through the agenda. So session overview, I'll touch on that in a minute. What is Delve? So give you a bit more insight into what Delve is. Then I'm going to do some demos on Delve, the different features and functionality in Delve. Very exciting. Products, so I'm really looking forward to showing you that, and hopefully you can take that away and kind of get some really real good buzz back at your companies. I also want to get an idea of who's using Delve, so I'll come to that shortly and ask you some questions. After that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Office graph behind Delve as well. So Delve's built on the Office graph, so I can't talk about that without talking about the backbone of what Delve's built on. I wanted to give you some insights from Satya as well, our leader. He did a slot at a conference recently in the keynote, and he talked about how Delve helped him. So I've got some extracts from that. I'm not going to play you a video. You can go and find it, but definitely call out some key things of how he feels Delve is going to help us at Microsoft and how it helped him in his day. And talk about a roadmap as well. Not necessarily just about Delve, but around the roadmap specific around Office 365 as a product, and how you should think about that when you're taking away what I'm going to show you today, and how you're going to plan that into the future of your organization. So not necessarily the product roadmap, but referencing that to how you can kind of factor that in if you've got some pressing requirements in your organization, and where you could kind of align what we're bringing out, what we've put publicly on the roadmap that you can kind of bring into your plan, rather than going off and spinning up custom solutions. Common questions as well. I think this is going to be really useful to you. So what are we getting asked at Microsoft? So I've basically looked through the Yammer feed. We've got a FAQ roll-up as well. I wanted to bring them to you as well. So what are we getting asked about Delve? And hopefully that kind of gives you some insights there as well. I'll obviously wrap up and talk through what we've talked about, and I've got some links to share as well, some really useful links. There's some YouTube quick 2-minute videos, so if you don't want to spend half an hour talking about it, here's a YouTube video. It's really good video. So again, all these links are there for you. Okay. So as I said, session overview. So I've got the fixed agenda, but again, it's about how I see Delve from the consultancy side of Microsoft, and how that can kind of come together with the product, and how we can kind of see that moving into bringing that into your organization. It's a very exciting technology. When Steve reached out to me to speak at the event, I give him 3 topics. I'll hold my hands up here. So give me 3 topics, and there was 2 topics around governance and things that I work with customers. And I put Delve in. Now, at the time, this was 6 months ago. And I didn't know anything about Delve, but I knew it sounded great, and I knew that not many people would be talking about this. So since then to now, I've been looking into Delve, how it's being used, and kind of harnessing that information. So yeah, it's been a real good journey for me as well, and it's really interesting to see what in Microsoft we could use it for as well. So as I've kind of taken on that journey to kind of bring this to you, I've seen how it can help me in Microsoft as well. What else do I, okay. So again, from a session expectation level, I'm not going into code, I'm not a developer. I'm more from an infrastructure background, so I'm not going to talk about APIs in depth. I know Jeremy will be disappointed that I'm not going to do that, but I can help you if you need to talk about the low-level Office Graph, APIs, etc. Again, sharing experiences, the real world. That's what I like bringing to these kind of sessions is, what about me? How do I see it? And obviously, feel free to ask questions throughout as well, as you see fit to kind of what I'm showing you here. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions now. I just want to kind of get some understanding from you guys. So how many people in the audience are using Delve? Okay, so I'm going to, for the purposes of the recording, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, so half a dozen people out of an audience of, 60, 70 people, so not many. So hopefully I can help you kind of change that number in the near future. Does anyone know about Delve and is planning to use it that isn't currently using it in the organization? Has anyone got it on their roadmap? Okay, so we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, again, half a dozen. Okay, so great. So we've got a lot of people here. This Delve is fairly new to you guys, and you just want to get an insight into it. So, okay. All right. Okay, so I guess without Delve, how do you find information out about things in your organization? So you talk to people, you get emailed or you email, so ask questions. You've got social, Yammer, all sorts of social networks that you kind of consume information from. Now this was kind of before Delve, and this is where it's going to get really exciting, where Delve can kind of consolidate this for you. So kind of stepping away from that a little bit, a common ask I have from my customers, every time I see them, we're going to build an intranet, okay, and we want a staff directory. So what's Delve got to do that? I'll definitely show that in the demos, but the staff directory is a real core component. I see all my customers, how are we going to do that? We've got all these line of business applications that feed into to give us properties of users and so on and so forth. And they try and build these really complex systems. And when I started the journey of looking into Delve, I was like, wow, this is kind of out of the box. This is going to be really powerful, and it's kind of there. It's you don't have to do anything. It's nice and rich and interactive, and you don't need this 3-6 month deployment plan. It's there. I know a lot of you will probably be well. I guess let's ask another question. How many people are using Office 365 at the moment as a primary source of storing information? Okay, so we've probably got about 15 people there. Okay, so yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand here is, we're not adopting the Office 365 suite from the audiences, and we need to change that, right? So one of Microsoft's key focuses here, we want to see people using Office 365. We know it's powerful. We need to get you guys embracing that and adopting that. One of the key things that Microsoft are doing, and the focus is the user experience of the platform. How do you engage with it? Delve is perfect for this. It's a really nice, clean user interface that you'll see. And I'll definitely show you lots of demos around that. Okay, moving on. I guess one of the questions to ask is, I guess I always have this person in Microsoft who always knows more than me. And it's like, how does he know that? How does he know about X, Y, and Z? And I want to be that person, but I don't have infinite time to kind of consume feeds from everywhere and emails. I get hundreds of emails. Yammer, there's so many different feeds that I can go into there as well. How does this guy know all about this, and how can I be smart about how I can know this now? Again, I'll show you this in Delve as well. Okay, so what is Delve? So, as I mentioned, Delve is built on Office Graph. I'll talk to you about Office Graph later on. I'll show you some demos first. In terms of Delve, it's built on this Office Graph as a user interface that's surfacing information across Office 365. Surfacing it from SharePoint, Exchange, Yammer, and consolidating that information. And Delve is bringing that to life so that you can easily access that content. Interesting, I was showing one of my colleagues on the Microsoft stand, and he was amazed with what he saw. He's like, "Wow, I didn't realize that this is a way I could do this, changing the way of working to get that information." So the search and discover content. So there's two aspects here. When you search, you may know something's existing, or you may just throw it out there. Hopefully, something matches this term. So the search aspects we're kind of all familiar with, right? We're just going to put something in. We think we know it's there, but we'll type something in. And then there's a discover content, and this is where Delve kind of brings that to life. It's suggesting content to you, or it's providing you with content. Not suggesting based on a random suggestion. It knows about you. It knows who you are. It knows who your manager is, who you work with. And it brings all that together from a point of view of machine learning. So machine learning is an Azure feature, very, very powerful. So what that does, it starts to kind of bring things together, and it constantly is learning about you as an individual and people in your organization, how they interact, and bringing that together. Again, tailoring and surfacing that information. So what you see in Delve is not what your colleague will see in Delve. It's totally it's consuming for you. So what are you working on? What are your colleagues working on? It's your personal view. You won't have that like search. Everyone may search for something that will come up with the same results. Delve is unique to you. Connections. Again, connections is a really, really key one here. Microsoft are a 100,000 plus organization. How do I find the person I want to talk to if I've got a question, right? It's hard. In Microsoft, it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. So I see Delve as a really powerful way of getting to these people. How do I do that? I go to someone else I know who's working on something, or I go to the product group. I'll see an individual in that group, and then I'll see who he's working with, because it tells me who he's interacting with, and it'll roll up all his recent contacts. Who is he actually doing day-to-day work with? And that's all based on the Office Graph that's bringing that back and showing that to us. And I'll address some concerns around privacy and security as well, because I know that's something that's commonly asked, that will get asked as well, and I can put those to bed for you hopefully as well. And so engaging and consolidating. My customers go and build applications, or they ask us to build things, and it's there now. It's there. This people finder, this kind of search and discover. It's there and ready now. It's not this application that you have to spend months building, releasing, communicating on. And it's really engaging, and you'll come to see that shortly as well. So, and it's easy way to provide rich results. So it's not something I need a developer to go and create a nice UI. It's all consolidated for you there. And again, you'll see these features shortly. All right. Delve was called Oslo as well. Just to give you a bit of background to Delve, it was codenamed Oslo. The reason being is Oslo is where the search team are based, the Microsoft search team. Again, Delve is built on search and analytics. So it's the analytics are basically how many people are viewing documents, and it's sucking that search, combining it with, sucking that analytics out, combining it with search, and bringing this rich experience to you. All right, demo time. Bear with me, guys, while I switch my screen around. Okay, this is Delve. So I'm on the home part of Delve here, and what this is showing me is my consolidated view of my organization. Now this is a demo tenant. I'm logged in as Katie now. I am Katie for the next 15 minutes. So Katie works with people. Katie interacts. She's got managers. She's got people outside her direct she works with. And this is consolidating and bringing all that information together. So it's not just my team's information. This is my organization and who I interact with and making that relevant to me. All this content is my focus based on the machine learning that's taken place and bringing all this information together. Some really kind of interesting things here that I'm going to go through. So I'm going to talk through the content, the cards here, the packet. So this one here, the 2012 packaging project report. That's called a card. Okay, and I'll come on to some extensibility around that and how that can be used in other applications as well, and the extensibility of Delve and Office Graph. So I'm going to talk you through the Delve experience. I'm going to talk you through the boards as well. So there's I don't know if you guys are aware, there's a boards feature. So the boards is like a pinning of information. So when you go and find information from your organization, you go, I'll add that to my favorites in Internet Explorer. Okay, so this is kind of like a nice way to do this and then share that in the organization. So I could create a Paul's board, and then people might say, oh, I like what Paul's doing. I like the kind of things he's looking at. So I'll follow that board. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well, and then the people we interact with as well. So just looking at the content card, we can see Alex Darrow here. So there's a lot of information here that we take for granted, right? Now, one thing is that I want to share with you is that the engineering team behind this product are constantly monitoring how this is used. That's one key thing I want to say. So just as they're looking at the user interface and how that works for you, they're listening behind the scene, and they're listening to what you're doing. How are you using this user interface? How are you when you go to this content card? Are you looking for Alex Darrow through here, or are you going down the side here? Or are you searching? All that information is being collated, and this is how Delve will evolve. This is how we will fine-tune that rich experience, how we will improve on what we've got today. So this is kind of like the version 1 we've got here. So some new things, exciting things coming out, and they're going to continue to come out and roll out. So not like this on-premise scenario where you've got a 3-year kind of release cycle. This is kind of rollouts that are happening every week. Not necessarily with Delve, but in the Office 365 suite. There's always something new coming out every week. Yeah, so all of this analytics really helps Microsoft tune this for your organization, for the experience in Delve. So some things in here to look at is the pictures. This is a really good one, actually. I really liked what's happened here. Is you can have a document with lots of different pictures in, and what the Delve team have done, they've worked with Bing to mine the picture that's most relevant to that content. So it won't necessarily pick the picture on the first page. It will scan the document, and it will find the picture that it feels is going to grab you. What does that mean? So Brendan and I, for example, we were looking at a report, and I was showing Brendan around the specifics of this, and he was really kind of like looking at it, saying, oh, it's got the pie chart on page 5. That really pulls it in for me. Whereas if you've got the logo of the company, well, that's no good because that will appear on everything. So it really was, powerful in mining the correct kind of content to grab you. Why do I need to look at that document? So that's really powerful feature. The other thing as well, it pulls in where it's from, so it's quite easy to get to navigate around as well. So we can see here it's in the document center, so I can jump straight off to the document center. Ways of sharing as well. So the ways that you can share this through traditional email, we can start talking on Yammer about it, just start having a conversation, or we can interact with people on it as well in other ways. So the boards feature as well. So for example, this packaging project, I could add that to a board. So I'm going to add this to compete. So you can see there's a compete board on the left. All right, okay, so if I jump into my compete, and there it is in there, along with some other documents as well. So this is a really effective way of grouping information. So in Microsoft, we might be doing things like releasing a new version of something, or talking about SharePoint 2016, tag it to 2016. That's a really insightful way of us just to quickly go somewhere. And it's a great way for me, if I want to get information out to the masses, rather than have to go and post in Yammer. This is a quicker way of doing it. Just tag it, put it in a group, put it in a board, and then everybody who's following that board will see those updates go into that. Now, one thing I want to make you aware of is the privacy aspect to this as well. So I've got 4 documents in here. A different user may not see all of those documents. So it still respects the privileges and permissions of the individual who's going into that. So the board is a nice way to pin, but if you don't have access to those documents, you'll only see some of the documents. Okay, so you need to be careful when you're kind of pinning, are you opening that up to everybody? Because otherwise it's not going to be as effective because they're not going to get to see it. All right. The other thing to show you as well is the Office Online as well. So it's really effective just to kind of just click on it. It will open in the Office Online browser. So quickly getting that content in and bringing it through. So really powerful features there. All right, okay. Jump onto the me part. This is when I talked to you earlier about the staff directory. So for those of you who know the My Profile in SharePoint, this is kind of like the kind of the new version of that. This is where we're going with that profile section for the individual. So in here, I get a consolidated view of me. What have I been up to? If I'm editing, authoring 10, 20 documents, I can't remember which one's most relevant. This is going to be a nice way to quickly jump into that and find that document rather than, oh, did I put it there? I can't remember. So it's a nice consolidated way of getting to that information. There's some really exciting things here as well. This is where the power starts coming in around who am I, Katie, connecting to? Who am I working with within my organization? So just one thing here is this is my private view. Okay, so this is me going into my own area. If I was coming in as another person, so let's for example select Bonnie. So if I go in as Bonnie, my view of Bonnie will be different to Bonnie's view of Bonnie. Okay, because it's what's publicly available and relevant to be broadcast, whereas my view of myself will be different because it's all about me and it's the barriers down because it's consuming from me. So that's the security aspect there coming in. So with Bonnie, we can see quite quickly you've got a title appear as well. So who is Bonnie? What's a title? But the staff directory that I was referring to as well. This is kind of a nice way to kind of find out who's she working with, what those people working close to. Now, there's an interesting thing here around, for example, my manager. If I go to my manager's Delve page. Let's say, for example, she's having a lot of conversations with HR on email, okay? So she's having a lot of conversations on email. That's not going to get shown here, right? So the people that you see up here are people that she's publicly discussing things with, whether that's shared content in SharePoint, whether that's Yammer likes and acknowledgements in posts, etc. But those private conversations, they don't come into play here. So someone else looking at Bonnie's profile won't see those email conversations because that's private. That's known as a private signal. So there's public and private signals, which is part of the Office 365. The Office graph, which I'll touch on. All right. So what else do I need to show you guys? So search as well is great. So the search and discovery aspect. I think I know where something is. That's the one thing. I think I know where it is, but I'm not quite sure. Here it's going to roll that up nice and neatly for you. Okay. So the discover, that's the bit that I really find powerful, and that's where I can kind of go to that guy who knows everything in Microsoft and save those hours of trawling through Yammer sites and go, now I know that, I found out that they're working on a new app for 365. I didn't know about that, but Dell's going to tell me about that. And that's going to be quite effective because otherwise I'd have had to read through a trail of kind of conversations and discussions, and Dell's just going to kind of gone, You don't need to worry about that. I'll tell you that because I know that you've got a connection with him, you're doing some work with him, and that's probably relevant to you, so I'm going to bring that to you rather than you have to go and find it. To me, that's just going to save me hours of work, just trying to trawl out and weed out that information, and I'll come on to Satya's view on that as well later. So search, for example, if I go to search, it's, again, really, really nice highlighting of content. So I've just typed the word account, for example. Again, this is going to be unique to everyone's experience. It's not necessarily like your traditional search where you'll type the same two people, type the search result in, and it brings up the same information. This is going to be different because I've typed an account, but it might be an account that's relevant to me. Another person, they may have worked on something different with accounts, and that's going to bring them up something completely different. So again, it's a different way of getting that information, trying to personalize it and drive that content that's relevant to you. All right, how are we doing? Let's just go back to the profile for it. So I've showed you the activity feed in the new people experience, and finding out who I'm working with is Katie. The My Profile, the profile sort of page here. So this is where the organization side of it is. So you've got the kind of activity side. It's who are you working with, not necessarily in your kind of local group. Who is actually in your organization? So this goes back to the My Profile of 2013, 2010 that we know. That's all kind of rendered here. So this is kind of the traditional one. So you can see quite quickly that this kind of user interface is ready-made. Right, so it's brought all that information, it's there for you. One thing to note is the customization. There's limited customization that you can do on this, so just take that into account here. But if you've been to some of the other sessions, we're not necessarily encouraging that you go and create these kind of really highly customized, branded solutions. So just wanted to make you aware of that as well. All right. Let me jump back to the slides. Bear with me a second, guys, while I switch screens. Oh, one thing I did want to show you, actually. Was the responsive design element as well. So if I was to kind of shrink this down, it's kind of consolidating that information nice and easy. So that's one thing that's been talked about quite a lot this week, is making it responsive. So we've listened, we're hearing, and we're implementing this kind of feature as well. All right. All right, okay. So, I want to talk to you, as I said, I want to talk to you about Office Graph. You can't talk about Delve without Office Graph because Delve is built on the Office Graph. Today, Delve will cover your Office 365 suite, and it will look at content across that suite. So, if you used Exchange, for example, in Silo, and you've migrated your Exchange mailboxes to 365, Delve can do something for you, but it's not really going to do a lot because it's just got email, and as we talked about, email's going to be private, so you're not really going to benefit from this. So this is where trying to bring that information into 365 is going to enlighten and make that experience a lot richer. So having that kind of cross 365 view is consolidating that information for you as a user, rather than just having to go to sort of point locations and search Exchange for email, search SharePoint. This is that consolidated view across all of these technologies and bringing that one view to you. Okay. So you probably will have seen these slides in the keynote from Jeremy, but I think it's worth just reminding you of what we've got here. So the Office Graph, so Delve is kind of bringing that Office Graph to life. Okay, the Office graph is where all the kind of the signals are built up, and all of the kind of calculations and analysing and learning is taking place. So we've got obviously cat here, documents, people and conversations, right? So all of these things make up signals. So if I'm working with somebody, Office graph will get to learn about that, and that's a signal. So if I'm liking a post on Yammer, or I'm sharing something and someone else likes it, it starts to know that that person might want to know a little bit more about that person, or we want to start bringing that together, okay? And it doesn't necessarily need to know where all your information is as well, so it brings it all together. You don't necessarily need to find that information, it will bring it to you. So you want to make sure that's kind of coming out here. It's effectively avoiding that kind of need to kind of jump around and try and bring that information together. It's consolidating it for you. So I think I did touch on this earlier around the security aspects as well. So again, HR is a great example. If I started to see my manager talking to HR and I could see that on Delve. So yeah, it respects all that privacy side of things as well. So, and again, I will come onto those signals in a little bit. So, all right, okay. So shared with me, my manager, direct report, someone I work with. Someone I work with could be over in Seattle, America somewhere. This is where the power comes in. It's just bringing all that information together. Where I may be making a lot of noise, where there's maybe a lot of people opening a document, that's going to start bringing that to people's attention. So if someone went to my public views, let's say I wrote some IP in Microsoft around Delve, for example, and people started viewing that content, started opening that information, it would start to kind of appear at the top of my profile. So when people come to look at me in Delve and my public view, that document will start to appear at the top. So it's driving that information based on analytics that's coming from Office Graph. And then again, this is where you've got your kind of your close circle, and then it'll start to kind of learn who else is kind of connected to someone that you're working with. You may want to kind of know about what they're doing as well. Again, all these algorithms, all this information that it's learning, it's going to start bringing all that information to you. So, for example, it may bring someone I'm talking to over in America, it may bring someone they're working with into the forefront of my view on my homepage, because it thinks that, oh, you're talking about 2016, or you're talking about Delve, you probably want to look at that. So it's really, really powerful. It's a really exciting kind of space to be in. All right. So the public and private signals, again, I've touched on this just to kind of get, this is one of the three things that we get asked at Microsoft, the main areas that we get asked around Delve, and how, you know, what about this, what about that? So security is one, hybrid is another, and I'll come on to hybrid, and extensibility is the third thing. So security is something that we treat as very serious at Microsoft, and we want to make sure that you're seeing that as well. So these padlock documents, they will not get shared in Delve. Something else to be aware of as well, you can turn Delve off in 365 as well. You can turn it off at tenant level. You can turn it off at user level. So if you don't want to be involved in the Delve experience as an individual, you can opt to turn that off. So let's say someone in the organization who's quite influential doesn't really want to take part in this. They don't want really people to see they're nervous about this. So you can kind of say to them, look, we can turn that off for you. You don't have to be, you don't have to be part of that. Let's pilot it. Let's do it for a number of users. So that's a good way of kind of bringing this into your organization, satisfying those kind of security requirements around here. Again, talking about conversations, as Delve and Office Graph grows and we start to bring a broader kind of view of things, we start mining information deeper around Yammer, private messages in Yammer, link. That's private, right? So that stays private. Office Graph will never surface that publicly. So you can kind of be rest assured that information would be away from public eyes. Simon, question from you. So the question is, if there's interaction over email multiple times, then will those signals get counted? And the answer to that, Simon, is yes. So for the private view of that individual, yes. Publicly, that's not going to get seen because those two people having that private conversation, it's going to start scoring them higher in what's ranked to get seen on that page. But no, not publicly. That will not get seen. Okay. As I said, I'll come on to hybrid and extensibility shortly. How are we doing for time? Okay. So, again, we've talked about transparency and control. Here, rest assured that security privacy, Simon, that we do around what you were asking, it is totally locked and you can't see that. Let me jump a couple of slides for you. So schema, talking about Office Graph schema, what is Office Graph currently looking at? So we've got people, documents and sites, SharePoint sites, OneDrive as well. I haven't mentioned that previously. Video is another one, and social, Yammer. Now there's more to do in the Yammer space, and there'll be more happening around this, and there will probably be some more announcements which I'm not privy to either. So the likes of Jeremy Thake, who was on the keynote, he works in the product team and he keeps that very secret, he has to. So there will be more announcements on that, I'm sure, shortly at the Ignite conference that's coming up. But it's not going to stop there, right? So there is going to be future things that it's going to be extended out to. So groups, there's a session up next around Office 365 groups, collections of content elsewhere, meetings and tasks, that's going to be really exciting as well. So if you're bringing your Exchange meeting content into play as well. And then external content, line of business applications. I wanted to mention something to you. Videos. So whenever you go and watch a video, let's say on Netflix, and it'll say, oh, you might want to watch so-and-so. That's Office Graph. Okay? That's Office Graph learning about you and what you're watching, and then looking at what other things might be relevant. So it's not just a kind of a fixed list, it's dynamic, it's learning what new content's coming out, what are people watching, what's the most top watched video. It's going to start bringing that to the forefront. And that's in the video portal as well. It'll do exactly the same thing. So when you watch a video on the vNext release of SharePoint, for example, it'll say, did you want to watch something about so-and-so? And that's targeted to you based on Office Graph and what Office Graph is learning about you and where you are in the organization. Signals. Okay, so you may have heard me mention the word signals. What are signals? So I won't go through all of them, but there's some things to be made aware of here around email. That's a signal. If you email someone, that's a signal. If you like something, that's a signal. If you share a document in a list in SharePoint, that's a signal. So these are all kind of things that are going on behind the scenes. It's all about analytics around what are you doing, what are you working with your peers or wider work group. And all that information is being sucked into machine learning, and that's basically churning out, how do I learn about that individual? What are they working on? And I'll talk to you a little bit about that with Satya as well. And the weighting as well. So this is a good one, actually. So as Office Graph grows, one thing that's really interesting is things like if you start to ignore somebody. So if in Outlook, someone's really kind of sort of wanting to tell everyone about what they're having for dinner, and they're sending that out on email, then if you start to hit the ignore button in Outlook, it will start to know that you're not really interested in that person. Okay, so it will start to learn about, you don't want that in your Delve profile, right? Because you don't feel that individual's relevant, that information that is relevant. Now, if that individual does have information that's relevant, it's going to be a struggle to get him back up that list because he's out. Yeah, sure, question. So the question is, how does that work with clutter? So does it move things out your inbox? So there is something that's going to start to look at how you view your email, and effectively before you have to hit the ignore button, it will bring that important information to you so you don't have to worry about it, and I'll have a view on that. So does that answer your question? Yeah, sure. So play that back to me, sorry. Can you over? Okay, no. So it's pretty much black box. So you're not going to be able to influence that through Delve, but you could build your own applications to kind of rate that and weigh that separately. So the question was around if you wanted to try and override something that's been influenced by Office Graph in Delve, can you do that? No, you won't be able to. It's all about the machine learning aspect. So that's left to the intelligence to work behind the scenes on how it brings that information. But you can delve into the, excuse the pun, into the Office 365 APIs and build something custom. So you can. There's a lot of things. Again, I'm not going to go into a deep dive on Office Graph, but there's really exciting space there, and there's lots of things. I think I've put a link in the end as well about Office Graph. Okay. And the other thing is signals are treated differently for individuals. So just because I didn't like somebody's comment or I ignored somebody in my inbox, that's just for me, right? That's not going to go, right, everybody in your team, you need to start ignoring that person because he's not making us productive. It's just an individual's action. So the signals are different and will appear different for everybody. Okay, so the kind of extensibility roadmap around hybrid and external signals. So there's been a blog recently about looking to kind of bring into play other content. So around that hybrid model with on-premise. So we know that you're not going to get everything into 365, right? So this is probably where half of you are kind of up to now thinking, okay, right, this is all great, Paul. You're telling me this, but my content isn't in 365, so this isn't going to be an enriching experience for you. However, with these extensions that come, this extensibility, it's going to start allowing you to bring in the kind of broader story to your organization. So it's not just about if you've got 20% of your workload in 365, then it's going to broaden that out and it's going to make it more relevant rather than just having a very specific focus of what you've got up in the cloud. And again, that extensibility will go after other things as well. More information, I'm sure, will be shared shortly through the conferences that are coming up at Ignite. One thing I wanted to call out is around the customer support ticket as well. So you could have a kind of a line of business application, and you could bring that card out. You know, I showed you the card where you've got the picture. So you could just bring that card out, and you could have a card placement next to a line of business application. It could be a recommendation. Say, let's say if you've got a problem with passwords password resetting in 365. So that card might be you need to read this document, or for that support engineer who's looking at a ticket, we click on that and then you're away. So it's kind of trying to get you information quicker to bringing that to you quicker. The APIs are coming. There's a lot of work there. I'm sure if you go and have a conversation with Jeremy, he's kind of very close to the heartbeat with the engineering team around that kind of area. So if you've got questions around that, you can come and see me, and I can reach out and help you with that. Okay, so this was kind of coming onto Satya in a recent conference where he kind of showed everybody how he used Delve. Okay, and what he thought of it. So he really felt that it was allowing the organization to find content a lot quicker, bringing that together, and just making everyone's job more productive, right? This is what we're all about, is trying to make ourselves more productive at work. Bringing things to his attention. So Satya's going to be changing all the time, you know, switching around. And machine learning needs to go and find out pretty quick what his changes are, what his focus are. So it might be a new product release, it might be financial results, and that needs to change, and it will be changing in, you know, almost real time, and bringing that information to Satya's attention through that kind of consolidated view. What does he need to look at? What does he need to bring to his forefront quickly? And rather than having to go and find that information, it's given to him. So he doesn't have to do, you know, what I was saying earlier about going to feeds, trawling through its, you know, that's kind of, you know, Satya, I think you need to know about this. And it's not based on the org chart, okay? So it will have some influence, but it's about who you interact with. So if you never work with your local team, but you work with lots of other teams, this is going to make it relevant on who you're actually engaging with at the point. Again, machine learning, I've put a link in here for machine learning. It's so powerful. It's got so many different facets that you could use it for. What we're talking about with Delve is just one example. The transparency and discovery aspect as well. So being able to kind of mine that information with minimal effort. And in summary, what he was kind of saying was he was finding that it's bringing people together. That's one key thing that he really liked, is Delve was helping those connections, make those better connections. As I use an example, if I'm working with someone in the product group, I now know about who he's working closely with because they're working on a story, because I looked at the content that they were doing that was shared publicly. Now, without Delve, it would have been a bit of a struggle to do that. I might have had to go to their OneDrive and just look at the you know, whatever they're exposing to me and shared with everybody, whereas Delve's kind of brought that to life and made that a lot easier for me to do that. And it's really helping transform how he works as well. So that was from the Convergence conference. Again, things like HoloLens, so the products around the buzz around HoloLens, it might start bringing those sort of things into his focus as well. All right. Conscious you're all getting very hungry because it's nearly lunchtime. So the roadmap is key. I get so many customers who will start to go off on tangents because they've got sign-off to build something, that in parallel, whilst they've spent all that effort and time going off to build something, the roadmap's just flagged that, you know, this new feature's coming in Delve, or this new feature's coming in Exchange that's going to basically make your kind of custom solution void. So I'd strongly recommend that if you're looking at Office 365 and you're trying to plan that roadmap for your organization around adoption, you know, don't throw everyone at it straight away. Try and carve that up and understand what sort of parts that you can focus on and communicate to the organization around that. This is where it's going to tell you about what's coming up, okay? So it's going to make that a lot easier for you to kind of go, look, Microsoft's telling us that this is where they're looking. Now, one thing to mention on the roadmap is it changes, right? So we can only give you a certain view because the world's constantly changing. The functionality that we deliver may not be as valuable as something else that's now come to the forefront, so it will change. So it may not necessarily be as longer term as you'd like, but there's one thing that's worth calling out is if you're looking to kind of look at the new technologies, there's a TAP program that you can get, a technical preview program that you can get on and look at the new features. It will be non-disclosure, but that's something if you're interested, come and speak to me about, and I can definitely talk to you about how you can get involved in that. All right, guys, not too many more slides now. So, common questions. So, what plans can I use Delve on? I've got 365. What plan does it apply to my plan? So it's basically been rolled out at the moment to all the E1 to E4 plans and all the relevant the corresponding government plans. And there will be more business plans that will roll out too, but later down the line once they've gone through these tenants first. As I mentioned, when it would be available, so it was announced last month, so they've started to roll out Delve. So if it's not in your tenant yet, it will be coming. You can turn on an option in your tenant to get the first release of something as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you will go and turn it on. You need to kind of potentially look at another tenant to see what new features are coming, and then you get a feel for this roadmap and how it's going to apply to you. So where can we learn more about prepping for the rollout? So you've got your Office admin page. Have a look in there. It will talk to you and provide that communication talks around about how these new features are coming down to you. Again, I kind of reiterate, will Delve also show emails and conversations around your private signals? And the answer is no, it won't. It respects your privacy and it won't share that information with your colleagues unless you're sharing that information publicly through sites, etc., and you're openly sharing that. What's currently supported? So Office video, email, attachments, and links in Yammer. And again, I talked about the futures. There will be more that's coming, the hybrid story. And again, coming on nicely onto the hybrid story, yes, we appreciate that all your workloads can't move into the cloud, so there will be that hybrid story where you can connect up to your on-premise content and look at kind of consuming that in Delve to make that even more relevant to you. Okay, guys, we're wrapping up now. So I just want to kind of go over what we've talked about in the session, just so you can take away. So we've had a run through a Delve. I've given you kind of a view of the home sort of page for your public view of the kind of organisation, the private view of the individual, and what you see as your own content, and then having a look at other people's content, what they're working on, their connections. The boards, really effective way of kind of pinning information for other people to get to. And the Office graph, we've talked about the Office graph, how that works, how that's kind of underpinning the Delve offering features. Giving insight to Satya, how he sees the productivity increase from using Delve in the organisation and bringing those connections together and making those new connections that you weren't aware of. The roadmap. Keep an eye on that roadmap. It changes all the time, so get an idea of what's coming. Make sure that if you're kind of working closely and communicating with the business, or the business have a strategy to drive a specific area, that, you know, is 365 doing this out of the box? Because if it is, don't throw money at something that's going to be pointless and you have to support something separately. Some insights, so the common questions we got asked around how we use Delve. And then finally, the useful links. So I've put a few links on there for you to go through. So Delve information, some feedback. So that's a real key one. So if you are going to start using Delve and you want something in there, you really like, or you really feel that you're missing something that's going to be valuable, the Delve feedback site, the user voice site, is where the engineering guys go, right? So where the product group go, where the engineering guys will sit down, and if so many people are asking for a feature, that really helps those guys kind of say, look, people are asking for this. So if you're asking in silence, it'll never get there. So I really encourage you to use the user voice function. So I've got the roadmap there for you to go and look at. The Delve, there's a few videos there. So if you're at the takeaways, the 2-minute videos on YouTube, they're really, really effective to kind of get that message across quickly. Machine learning, again, if you want to learn about that, there's many different ways you can use machine learning. So there's a learning site for Delve as well. So there's a whole load of training material that you can go to and see. Now, if you're not using 365, you can get a trial tenant. So if you want to look at Delve, but you don't currently have a tenant, have a look at setting a tenant up and playing with it. Again, it's going to be limited if you don't put much information in it, but there's plenty of things that you can trial in that tenant. So I encourage you to go and do that. 5 minutes early, but I don't think you'll complain because it's lunchtime. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate the turnout, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.